Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. As always, I'll be your host, Nick axslav ranish, as we explore strategies and tactics using the game of Starcraft 2. Today, we're going to look over a Round 1 best-of-5 match between Stephano and Last from the MLG Winter Championships at Dallas. Of course, we're going to look at 3 of the games from the series, games 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to go to the viewer Q&A. If you want to have any questions submitted to the viewer Q&A, you can do those via Twitter to me at axslav. Or, of course, you can also go to youtube.com/officialmlgsc2 and make comments on the YouTube videos of the recent Rule of Engagement YouTube videos and answer those on the next episode. So today, Stephano vs. Last is our first segment, game number 1. We're going to talk about proxy Reaper openings, then go on to how to properly defend drop play, and then we're going to talk about late game Roach Hider composition, the strength and weaknesses, and how you need to adjust your play as you take that composition into later parts of the game. So we're going to jump off pretty early in this game, start the 3-minute mark. And we notice that Last is going for a proxy Reaper opening. So one of the biggest advantages of doing this opening, let's just do it at ×2 speed to get the game going a little bit faster. One of the big advantages of doing such an opening is you can play as greedily as possible due to perfect scouting. Now, yes, you're using a little bit of economy to build the early bunker, to get the early Reapers, but notice non-stop SV production in that worker tab. So constant economy, and he's getting some good damage done here with the Reaper, trying to get in there and get some kills. But not only is he going to get some kills, and the Reaper should pay for itself and the amount of damage it can do. We can notice Stephano is actually trying to minimize damage by building extractors with drones before they died and canceling them to preserve the drone lives. But the idea isn't that it's not only that you get, cost-efficient trades using the Reapers, but one of the big goals is because these Reapers give you perfect scouting, you can play exactly as greedily as possible. Now, you can sometimes do this with scans too, but just given the fact that you're using scans, you're not playing as greedy as possible, because of course that scan could have been a mule. Using a scan is less greedy. So we can see here, because he's scouting, he knows there's speedings, but he also noticed that the gas timing. He noticed there was drones taken off the gas at this time. We go back to his base. He felt confident getting the 3rd command center right after factory. He feels confident even only not even getting more barracks, right? Just staying on a single factory, a bunker, widow mines, 3 orbitals, and playing basically insanely greedy. But it's not risky, because these Reapers give him perfect information. He knows there's no fast banings. He knows there's no fast roaches, so he can even go straight to double eBays before building additional production facilities. So that's the real key strength of the Reaper. Now let's fast forward a little bit. The game's both players are gonna sit kind of back, macro up a bit. We can see a lot of upgrades coming through for Last. Stephano's doing the same thing, going into Roach Hydra. And as the game progresses, as his production starts to kick in, he starts getting medevacs. We get into the next stage of the game, which of course is going to be drop play, right? So as we get into the drop play portion of the game, one thing that's important to realize is Stephano has no Mulus. So without Mulus, there's 2 ways to defend drops. The first one being you station units to defend the drop. You just pull units back to wherever they're dropping. We can see that happening right here. The drop comes in. He sends his Zerglings, his Roaches, his Queens to deal with it. As we progress, of course, he'll start to preemptively place units in locations that could be threatened by drops. We can see here if we fast forward just a little bit, we'll see what's he doing here. He's got a Spore Caller. What else is he going to do? He's going to set a portion of units here to help defend the drops. And this can work, right? Keep some units in both the locations where drops could hit. But what's really important, we're going to pause it right here real quick, is that you come to a point... Oops, sorry guys. You come to a point in your play when, yes, you got those units to defend drops, but what if you need your units to defend a push? What if you need all your units right here to stop a frontal attack, right? Well, in that case, stack defense is great to supplement. And the key thing is you can't put stack defense everywhere. You can't make a whole line of spine crawlers across the whole map because you don't have the funds. Your army will be worthless. If you do that, you'll just get run over by direct attack, right? I mean, the Major line didn't work for the French in World War II. The Great Wall didn't really work that well against the Mongols when they really decided to just go around it or push at a spot that was lightly defended. So you can't put stack defense everywhere, right? But what you can do is you can defend the corners, right? So you put stack defense up here, and you put it up here. Now, why do you defend the corners? because you want your army to be as close to the center as possible. So you want to only have to walk around these zones, right? The shorter these arrows are of where army has to go to defend drop play, the shorter your response time will be when you have to group your army up to defend a frontal assault. So when it comes to stack defense, just defend the corners of the map. This is true with Protoss too. Protoss versus Terran, Terran versus Terran. You put your missile turrets in the corner. Eventually, you can try to get more and cover more zones, but the first stack defense you put, defend the areas that's furthest away from your ideal army placement. So your army only has to patrol a smaller area instead of having to go all the way to the very corners. So as we progress, we see that's exactly what Stephano's doing, right? We can see here, he's building the stack defense in this corner. And again, he's got a Spore Crawler up here, and he's got some Hydras here. Ideally, he'd probably put a Spore Crawler here as well, and then maybe a Spy back here. Because, you know, the Hydras can work for now, but eventually these Hydras are going to want to have to leave and join the main army. Of course, actually, let's back up just a second to cash out again. You can see how effective the stack defense is at the corner, right? Even though the dropships notice stack defense is here, right? So they have to come in from a different angle. This angle is now much closer to the army, right? So when he comes in here, the army it can get right there and get in the fight, instead of the drop being in the back of the mineral line, where the army has a much harder time reacting to it. Again, it drops here on this corner. He has the one Spore here. I'd like to see a little bit more, especially by exactly knowing it's weak. He sends those units back up there to help cover this section as well. Now, going forward, the next thing we want to talk about is late game Roach Hydra, right? One important thing to think about, we'll fast forward this a little bit quicker, if you're going Roach Hydra, there's, throughout the mid game, you can often beat Marine Marauder armies. Why is this true? It's true because Marines and Marauders have to be built from barracks. It takes a while to get a lot of barracks. They have to run across the map. Your Roaches and Hydras you can produce using larvae, which you're going to have a lot of larvae, so you can produce them very quickly, which means you're going to have a greater number of Roach Hydra, right? But when it gets to the late game, when it gets to this situation that we're at right here, this is where it can be a game-determining point, because look at the foods. Once a Terran maxes out, even though you can produce units faster, you're not going to have a unit count advantage because they've already maxed out. So in the late game, Roach Hydra, you don't have the army size advantage, and cost for cost, stat for stat, Marine Marauder is so much better than Roach Hydra. Like, Marines are about 3/4 as powerful as a Hydrus in all their stats. Their damage to life is roughly 3/4, and they're 1/3 the price, right? Marauders, Roaches, it's same thing. Even just go pure Marines. Marines are even stat-wise a lot better than Roaches as well. So you can't go pound for pound for them. Early on, you have more units. Later on, you can't have more units because they'll max out. That's where you need the Vipers. So when they do that late game push, you cannot engage them until you have Vipers if they're maxed out. We can see here what Stephano does, unfortunately, is he says, you know what? I've got 2 Vipers in production, but I don't think I can wait for those Vipers. I don't think I can sacrifice one of my bases, go down to 3 bases. So as soon as he pushes to the low ground, I'm going to try to engage him, even if I don't quite have Vipers yet. And that is a significant problem because Roach Hydra just can't beat the Bio Army, right? So as Last makes moves to try to attack this 4th base, Stephano says he's trying to wait, he's trying to wait, he's trying to wait. He wants to get the Vipers out, but eventually he's like, you know what? To defend my 4th base, I've got to go. When you go head-to-head against a Bio Army without Vipers, this is what happens. If you look at the food, Stephano plummets. Last is very little. And as we go forward now, there's not enough Roach Hydra left. So even though the Vipers are here now, they still don't have the energy, right? He has to use his Consume to get a little more energy. But it's not enough to really counterbalance this size of an army, as we can see with this. But it's thrown a little bit faster. Too many Terran units. They're going to plow through here. And the Roach Hydra just can't compete because he lost too many before he fought with Viper support. So Last will just push up through here. He'll kill, he's already killing. He's killing this base. He's killing this base as well. There's too much Terran. Roach Hydra count was depleted because he fought without that Viper support. And Stephano's going to have to GG here in just a second. There we go. Well played. So what's really cool there is Stephano did a great job of drop defense. He fell behind a little bit early game from the Reaper harass. Not too far behind. And then, of course, Last got ahead a little bit macro-wise. Not because of the damage he did from the Reaper harass, but because he played insanely greedy But he knew it was safe to play greedy because he had perfect scouting information. That's the real key part about the Reaper Harass. And then it came down to that game-determining push, and Stephano really had to kind of try to sack bases and wait for Vipers. It's not ideal to sack a base, but it's better than fighting a battle that you're just going to get rocked in, because Roach Hydra cannot beat Marine Marauder as the armies get big without the appropriate support. This wraps up the analysis of game number 1. We'll take a short break and be right on to game number 2.